Hey everybody, this is Jen, and we are back with the Where Do You Run Well podcast, episode 2. So we are pretty excited to have our friend Adam Aganagua with us today. And he has a great story of personal triumph, goals set and met. So I want to start with a little bit of background about Adam. Me and Adam, we first met, I don't know, several years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago, maybe.
No, it's been 7.
Was it 7?
2013.
Okay. So 7 years ago, we first opened our store down on the corner in our original location, and Adam came in as a new customer. So we invited him to join us for a group run. The rest is history.
Yes.
We're pretty much best friends now. So,
Yep.
So a lot has happened between now and then. But I think it's important to hear from Adam because, our goal for this podcast, we want to tell some stories of inspiration, some amazing athletes in our community who decided in the middle of a pandemic to do some epic shit. So we just heard from Kelsey and Yak, and Adam has a little bit of a different story. He had different goals, but still it's similar in the fact that, we're all currently living in a state of emergency, and we're trying to navigate this the best we can. And I guess let's start with, how has this pandemic affected you in your life personally?
It's more on the personal side of things, like running, that kind of thing.
Well, I just want to know personally, for you, because there's a lot more to you than just the running,
Yeah.
Like you have a family, you have a job, you've got this huge heart, and so just in general, let's say in March, okay, when they're like, hey, go home and wash your hands and put a mask on, what was going through your mind?
Well, at that point with me, I wasn't really sure what was going on like anyone else because everything's good, and then two weeks into March, like, oh, hey, the world may have to shut down for I don't know, maybe a week or two. With that, there was just too much uncertainty. You just didn't really know what that meant.
Yeah, in a week or two. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
We can do that. Okay, a week or two.
Yeah. And all my races will be good. Everything will be perfect. But
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's what we were thinking initially. And then a week or two turned into a month and 2 months, and your race calendar's been wiped clean for you.
Nope.
Things are canceled. So then from there, kind of what happened? Tell me about your race calendar that you had set up for this year. What did that look like?
So in March, I did a 50K right before the world shut down. But then in April, I was going to do my first 50-mile race. And then, of course, with that, we weren't really sure. And then it got moved back to May. But then everything else starting to you'd have to defer, or in everyone's mind with me, the Leadville Marathon I was going to do in June. With that, I deferred that sooner than we had to.
Okay, so you had a 50K, did you say a 50 miler?
Yeah, yes.
Then you had the Leadville Marathon?
Yes.
Okay. and then anything else, or was that about wrapping it up?
Well, I didn't really have much else planned. I was just going to go see how it went. Because when things were going well, you could pick any race you wanted to do.
Right. Yeah, the good old days.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When we could just register for stuff.
Yeah.
And then we could go do stuff.
Yep.
Okay, so races were you did get one race in, so congratulations on that one. That's pretty awesome. That was a 50K that you did in April, right? Was that in April?
March.
March, okay.
Oh.
So then welcome to life like the rest of us, day by day, trying to figure out what we're going to be doing. And so as things were being canceled or they went virtual, how did you decide that you were going to like set another big goal? Like we're in the middle of a pandemic, and you decided, tell me about your big goal, and then like how did you decide to do that, to do your race?
So the St. Jude, the St. Jude Marathon weekend, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that one, I was already signed up as a St. Jude hero for that anyway, so I would have been doing it anyway. It was just now, with everything shut down and all that stuff, it became more important to me because when you didn't really have any races and you're fundraising for a cause and there's nothing else going on, like me as a runner, what am I going to do? I'm going to focus on that virtual race with everything I have.
So everything was canceled and you didn't have any races, but you were registered for the St. Jude Marathon that happens in December. But like you could do it virtually, or you could like defer to next year, or
Yeah.
Okay. So you decided you're going to do it virtually.
Yes.
And not only are you going to do it virtually, you're going to fundraise for the kids as a St. Jude hero.
Yep.
And on top of that, let's see if you can run your fastest marathon ever.
Yes, my fastest 26.2 for the kids. So.
I love it. And I like your reasoning behind it too. You know, everything's falling apart, but here's a bunch of kids that, you know, they need Adam, and they need all of us, and they need anybody that, you know, that is willing to fundraise and really go for it. So during your fastest marathon training, because, you know, running a marathon, 26.2 miles is hard enough, but then, oh, hey, let's see if we can't run our fastest marathon ever and set a PR during a pandemic. So you already know that what's ahead of you are a bunch of uncomfortable situations, uncomfortable workouts. So why not take the easy way out? Why not take the deferral? Or, you know, what was it that, you know, your driving force that you wanted to tackle this now, this year?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So with me, just I was at that point where for the St. Jude, like for the marathon, of course they're asking like, oh, you guys want to defer, you want to drop down level or whatever like that. Like I was pretty close to not wanting to do it, but then fundraising once as a hero, like with that, I couldn't help but not think of like why we fundraise is for the kids and the family and their families that go through this. And with me, I just for me, I just couldn't back out. But also being a runner, you don't really back out of any situation. Probably like a bit too stubborn for most of our own good, but it's just how it goes.
Well, yeah, and then you took the situation and you said, you know what, I'm going to try to run my fastest too, you know?
Yes.
Like, you're ready to break yourself and build yourself back up stronger. And that's one uncomfortable workout after another, after another, after another, until you're, you know, until you're faster and that you're running the pace that you know you can run. And so it gets hard. Was there any point during your training that you felt discouraged, or you felt like maybe I'm not going to meet my goal? Or
Well, For me, yeah, there were some workouts, like especially at the beginning, where it seems difficult, or like you set a goal and like you've never quite gone that fast, especially for that long a distance. Because my previous time was for a marathon, I was at 3:45. So trying to go under that's like an 8.5 minute pace. Trying to go
Which
under
is
that.
still pretty darn good.
Yeah, well
but not your full potential.
Yeah, well, it's just one of those things. Like with that, like people tell you you can do it. It's just with that, when it comes to your own mind, you're like, oh man, I've never seen that pace before. That just seems crazy. So,
well, and that's interesting though, because just because you've never done it in the past, you're not living the past,
Yep.
Too. And that's, that is no excuse why you can't do it in the future, So I think that that's probably key partially to your success, is that, that's a reason to try it maybe rather than not to try it.
Well, and I was pretty lucky too to have a pretty awesome coach to push me to that point too, because on my own, if it wouldn't have been for her, I probably wouldn't have done that. So, or I could have, it just wouldn't have been.
Well, and let's shout out to your coach. Go ahead and tell us about her.
My coach, she's one of the RunWell coaches. Her name's Lindsay Zeller.
And she wrote a plan for you, and then I guess you did maybe some group runs. Your long runs were with the group and that.
Yep.
But you did have a coach, so you had some guidance, because sometimes when you're trying to reach a goal, like if you're just freelancing, the body doesn't understand it sometimes. So you hired a coach to help you reach your goal. And at times when you felt discouraged, or like, were there ever a time that you like had just a bad workout, or one that you didn't meet the goal for the day, or that what was on your plan?
I think with like most of my workouts, most of them were pretty good. It was just with me, like when you had that hard workout, like doing the speed work, and then it like really sort of beats you down. You're like, oh man, I don't know if I could do that speed. But most of the time, like right after that, I didn't think that. But then the next day, body's like, oh hey, you could do that. You need to be more confident, of course. So
Right. Well, in each workout, I guess, that you complete, and the fact that you get up and you're still training, you're still in it, you didn't give up, so that's a confidence builder too, because, sometimes it's persistence and perseverance that gets you to the goal. So, we want to hear about race day, Adam, because we know you put the work in, and like you set your mind to it, which is really that's key. And that's kind of a consistent theme too that we've been hearing, just as about like the mental strength to get up every day and go do another hard workout. And, day after day, and you can even see down in your plan, like what's coming this weekend, but you don't quit. You're like, oh, that one's going to hurt.
Yeah.
But then you go do it.
Yeah, which that did happen once on a speed workout.
So tell us about race day. So how did you feel? So alarm goes off in the morning. How did you feel that day? Did you feel ready? Did you feel nervous?
Like, with me, I felt real ready like that. The only thing I really had anxiety about is just doing like a virtual race when you don't have the crowds, like all that stuff.
Well, and there's not going to be anyone to follow because you're going to be like the lead runner.
Yeah, which that happened. but for race day though, getting up early, everything seemed pretty good. Got there, got all warmed up, and then we didn't have a gun to get us to go, but we took off at 7:05. The temp wise is 30 out, but good, perfect, cool temperature. Wasn't sweating. So with that, like, my coach, she wanted me to aim for about like a 7:15, maybe 7:30, and like, of course, starting out I wasn't sure, but then our course that we did, we were going downhill, but like that, like, my starting pace was about like 7:39, which of course doing that, I'm like, oh hey, the training's working, it worked. So, so I mean, it was a really good start. And yeah, it was a bit weird sort of being the more lead runner for that because I kept going, everyone else was going, but
Well, and you don't have someone to push you or to run against, you know, so you
Yeah.
just have to push yourself. If you're going to run your PR marathon and you
Yep.
need to hold a certain pace, like,
yeah.
that's all, you got to figure that out. So then you were just by yourself on the course, or?
So we had a couple people we knew on the course, and then with my coach Lindsay, I was lucky that she was catching me at every point near the road, cheering me on. So
Okay, so just popping up along
Yeah.
the course for some support.
yep.
Awesome. So, what happens when you hit mile 18? You feeling good? Feeling strong?
So this time around, like mile 18, I was feeling pretty strong. I was sort of starting to feel it because 18 miles is definitely a long time.
At a hard pace. That's a
Yep.
hard effort.
But the weird thing though was like with that, like from like that to like mile like 22 out of 20 of them, I pretty much kept my pace. And the crazy thing is thinking back, I wasn't really thinking too hard about it. So
Well, good
Yep.
for you. So 18 feeling pretty good, starting to feel it.
yeah, I was starting to feel it. And with Lindsay, she did like run with me for a little bit, just
At what mile?
mile 18 to
Oh,
20.
okay.
So
Awesome. So you had your coach to run with.
Yep.
And did she run? How far did she run with you?
I think it's about 2 miles.
2
Probably.
miles. All right. Well, that'll help get you over the hump a little bit.
Yep.
Well, we still have 6 miles to go, though.
So like with that, mile 20, I sort of slowed down for a sec, but it's just I think with that, is getting some gel or something out of my bag. So it wasn't too bad, but then with that, so like with that, we had hit the turnaround point and then being about 5 miles out, it was fine. But then when I hit 22 miles, that's when it started getting a little hard. So, and like with that wasn't anything bad, like, cause that day everything was honestly working out. It was just fatigue. So it's one of those things where your body's wanting to stop, but of course you probably have to yell at yourself to keep going, cause like I've come this far. We're only about 4 miles out. Can't give up now.
So how do you talk to yourself? Like, what do you say to yourself at mile 23 or mile 24? Are you nice to yourself? Are you like having it out with yourself?
I mean, with that, like I don't think I'm not really too mean to myself. It's just more of just motivational, like, gotta keep going. Just because it's getting hard doesn't mean you can stop, so.
Right, because that's not going to be the end of your story. It got hard,
Yep.
so I quit. Mile 22. Like,
Yeah.
Well, at that point, you knew you were going to set a PR.
Yep.
So you had that kind of like wind in your sails that you had a great race up to that point. There's no way you're not covering those last 2 miles. It's just a matter of how far do you want to dig, like how deep, how
Yeah.
uncomfortable are you willing to get. And so last 2 miles, what are you thinking?
So close, but I like with me, I was getting so close, but at the same time, of course, your mind's like, oh, it seems a little far, but it's like, really, it's 2 miles. It's not that far. Like, I mean, we've done this a lot already. You just gotta get going.
The longest 2 miles ever.
Yeah.
And don't forget the point 2.
Yep.
You can't forget that point
Yeah.
either. That's always longer than what you think it's
Yeah.
going to be. All right, so you hit the fake finish line of your virtual race, and what are you feeling?
So you mean like,
You're done. You finished your goal. How, like, you saw your time on your watch? Like,
Yeah, I was. Like with me, I was just ecstatic that I was able to get through it, of course. But yeah, it was crazy because I mean my goal was like just a 3:30, but then when I got done, my watch said 3:27.
woo!
Yeah, so
Dude, that is awesome.
So yeah, I got past that goal I even established. That's
Oh my gosh. So that is awesome. You even beat your goal. So you had a PR goal, but then you smashed that in your virtual
Yep.
marathon for the kids. So congratulations.
thank you.
That is amazing. And I'd like to, I'd like to talk too a little bit about just your support system and like who was it that was instrumental to you in your success? I know it was your coach. Is there anybody that, like, any books you read or people you reach out to or family members, or did you have any other support system?
Yeah, well, my friend Keith Meyer, I reached out to him, which of course he is a really fast marathon runner. So of course with him, I sent him a couple texts. I was like, okay, since I know you run fast marathons, what should I do? Which of course he said, well, just run really fast, right? That'll be good.
It's so simple.
But yeah, it was really helpful. And then other running people I know that were doing the same thing.
Just like other St. Jude heroes or
Yep.
just other community members. Yeah, because you really have to draw on people sometimes.
Yeah,
you know?
and especially now when can't really see people and stuff, you gotta sort of like I'll lean on your community even more because now it's especially important. So
That is true. And you have to make an effort. Like, as before, we might just see each other because it's a Wednesday night group run. But
Yeah.
now, yeah, you have to actually make an effort and reach out to people. That's a good point. Well, and that's kind of interesting too, and how I would like to wrap this up just with this last question, because if there's anybody out there who's listening today and maybe they are feeling isolated or they want to set a goal, or they're kind of stagnant and maybe looking to try running, what advice would you give somebody that is maybe new to running and they're thinking about setting a goal?
I think one thing I would think is, like with anyone, when you first get into the sport, don't be too hard on yourself. Because like with that, like what's so bad is like that, like if you do know people that run, it's easy to compare yourself to someone else. But it's like you just gotta start doing it.
That's a good point. And don't compare yourself to other people, especially
Yeah.
like somebody who's maybe been running for 10 years
Yeah.
or something, and so just maybe celebrate right where you're at right now. And
And then like every little milestone you get, like if one day you run 0.01 miles more than you did the day before, that's a victory. That's a little further than before, and like it's baby steps. You can't just start out and be like, I'm going to run a marathon. I mean, some people have, and we know people that have, but most of us aren't like that.
most of us, it's a lot of work. It's
Yeah.
a lot of like overcoming different obstacles that come our way and figuring things out and really not giving up.
Yes.
Just taking that first step. Well, congratulations again, Adam. I love
Thank
you,
you.
bud.
Yep.
You're awesome. You're amazing. So, and thanks to everyone for listening in to Adam's story. And we look forward to telling you some more stories of personal triumph and tenacity and perseverance in the middle of a pandemic. Thanks, guys. For information on training programs through RunWell Coaching, please visit runwellcoaching.info. And for all other information on events, Visit our website at the store, runedwardsville.com. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time.